Hello everybody. In this video I'm gonna talk about money saving, cost cutting. Yes, I know this is a series of video about coding, but if you take the right decisions, you can save a lot of money, especially when you're coding. So this video is mainly meant for the managers who have to decide which is the next technology. I mean, I think it will be quite pointless to discuss about a specific, algorithm or a specific challenge to solve, because each of them might have a different solution. But let's say you have to decide a long-term project that will involve different topics in your company, and you're wondering, okay, which technology should I use? Then I hope this video will help you to take the right decision. Let's say you are in charge of taking the decision, and then you go to your programmers and you ask their opinion. They will suddenly start discussing in a way that maybe is not professional. I mean, look at the post you see on LinkedIn, for example, about people discussing, is it better R or is it better Python? The discussion suddenly ends in this way. Now we are gonna decide which is the best coding language. I don't think you should go this way. Maybe it's much better if you take some more quantitative parameter to decide. So let's say you go to some website like this one and they make a ranking about which is the most used language. Now this is very important, but I think before reading this table we have to understand, I would say, two points to read it properly, because here they put everything together and it's quite, let's say, misleading if you don't know how to read it. So, point number one, here we are putting together many different technologies. So it's kind of maybe pointless to just read this blindly. So for example, I read SQL as a position 9, and then you are like, oh, Python is position number 1, I should go Python and don't use SQL. I mean, if you are in this position, you should already know, but okay, let me just give you a quick review on what we are doing, and then we discuss about the second way of reading this table that I think is more interesting for you. But let's first clarify just to avoid mistakes. So, different tools are used in a different way. So, which tool is used for what? SQL, for me, is a tool that you can use to load the data and to retrieve data from a database. So it's exactly like this machine in a storage room. You use it to put stuff in it and to take it out. Okay, you don't really manipulate much. Okay, you can, but you don't really analyze the data in SQL. Actually, I would suggest don't do this. You just use it to store data and retrieve data. Then you might have C. C is a so-called quite low-level language, so you can really enter in the details of the computer and do some kind of surgery in certain complex operations. So that's why I compare C to these automatic machines that they go there and do everything. Then you have Python, where basically you have in one place something that can do everything. Maybe it's not the best tool, but best tool to do a specific task, but you can do everything, literally everything in Python. So that's why it's becoming so famous, but you can put everything together in one place. Fine. And then finally, you have the, let's say, object-oriented coding languages like C++ or C#, maybe Java, but I'm not expert about Java, so I prefer not to talk about it. So object-oriented is something you use normally when you have to do a huge code, like a huge machine. Look at this. Look at the cars, how tiny they are and how big the machine is. So if you have to do a code that is something like this machine, then you need to organize various components, and object-oriented is the tool, the way to go, at least in my opinion. So that's why if you need to do something huge, I suggest to go for this kind of languages. And you as a manager, if you have to decide what's the next technology you have to implement in your, let's say, system, in your company, then keep in mind this. This is, let's say, the first message I want to give you. So when you go back and you look at this table, you should somehow disentangle and say, okay, Python is needed for something, C is needed for something else, C++, C#, something else again, and SQL, right? Kind of divide this. Given this that you should already know if you are in this position, or know even better than me, I want to go to the second point that is much more important when you have to decide which coding language. Actually, this is what motivated me to do this video. A couple of months ago, I was, with some colleagues taking a drink after work, and next to my table there was another table with other people working for some other company, where this kind of situations where there is the manager and all the team around, and the manager is speaking, oh, I'm so cool, and all the team is like, mm-hmm. And this manager was like, let's say in March 23 was saying, oh, I convinced the top managers to implement a new big project in F# because F# is cool for this reason, cool for that reason, and blah, blah, blah. And so cool, and blah, blah, I'm the best manager, and okay, I convinced everybody to use F#. Okay, let me give you a different perspective to look at coding languages, to understand why F# is a really bad decision in this time, in my opinion. When you speak about coding languages, you have to think like real-life languages. Okay, so let's take English, for example, and you have the word play. To play is a verb, right? And you can apply to many actions. So kids may play a game, musician may play music, you're at home, you play a video, this video many times, or you are an actor, you play some fictional character, fine. Now, if you go in Italian, for each of these actions we have a different word. Now, it can be in principle a matter of a taste, where you learn one word in English, and then you have to specify every time in the sentence what you are talking about, or like in Italian, you learn many words, so it's more effort to learn all of this, but later you can speak a more precise way. Can be in principle a matter of a taste. And now we can translate this observation into coding. So for example, you have to choose between Python and C. In Python, you can just define your variables, right? And you, as you like, you say, I define a number, this one, I define a letter, a string. If you go in C, you must explain to the computer every time, oh, this is an integer, this is a floating number, this is a single character, this is a string. So somehow C is more like Italian, where you're pedantic, you have to specify everything. Python is more free, like English. And in principle can be a matter of a taste, which is the best. Given this, then you go to, maybe you ask to some of your people, okay, is it better to use this or that? And they say, oh, we want a strongly typed language because we have this and that reason. And you're like, okay, what's a strongly typed language? So you go to Google and you ask, is C a strongly typed language? The first result, yes, is a strongly typed. The second result, no, is a weakly typed. So you immediately go back to this situation, right? People having their own opinion, and you would like to have a decision based on some facts, not on, opinions. So what do you do? To take an appropriate decision, I think we should go back to the previous observation that coding languages are somehow similar to the languages we speak. And you can consider somehow the ranking of the languages to understand the problem. So, for example, you go to Wikipedia and you see the ranking of the languages, where Chinese is the number 1 on planet, English only the 3rd, and for example French is completely out of the top 10. Here we're speaking about the number of native speakers. Of course you might say, okay, but what about the total speakers? Fine, fair enough. If you go there, the ranking will change. English now is on 1st, Chinese is on 2nd, and French, for example, is on 5th. Of course, you can also look at other metrics, like how many countries they use this language as official language, and you see English is still on the 1st, French is the 2nd, before it was completely out of the top 10, and now Chinese is out of the top 10. So, the consideration we are doing here is that it's difficult to decide which is the most important language on the planet, if we can, let's say so, but even if you change the matrix, you will see that English is somehow always on the top, Chinese is somehow on the top, French is on the top. What about the lower level languages? Let's go back to the ranking I told you before. Look at this like the languages I just showed you. Of course, they are facing the same issue, and they explain that they make the ranking by looking at how many people are coding currently in this language, how many searches are done on the popular Google, Yahoo, and so on, and how many services are there. But for example, they don't consider how many lines of code have been written in the past. Fine, fair enough, it's just a definition. But let's look at F# in this ranking. It's ranked on 37th position. Now, what does it mean being on 37th position? You might think that, okay, it's not the super famous, but okay, 37 is not so bad. If you look at the languages, okay, for example, we're ranking on the first language speakers, you see that 37th position we have Ngala. Ngala is some dialect, I don't know, some language spoken in the Central Africa. But how many times in your life you met a person able to speak Ngala? Okay, might sound maybe racist. Let's look at ranking according to the total speakers. On 37th position, we have this Min Chinese. That's, sorry, I'm ignorant. It's some minority language spoken there. You know, China is big. They have major language, but they have also some local minorities. Right, so how many people they are able to speak this language? It's really a tiny minority. So try to think one moment. You are working in an international company and you decide that the official language of your company is English. Okay, everybody should speak English, everybody should exchange emails in English. Now let's say you want to switch and say, no, from now everybody must speak Ngala. Okay, that's for me the same as you are speaking in Python and you say, no, let's go in F#. So it's exactly, for me, the same. Do you want to go English or do you want to go Ngala? Do you want to go Python or do you want to go F#? This is my opinion, and this is what I was thinking inside myself when listening to this manager shouting that he's the coolest on planet because he managed to convince everybody to use F#. Try to put yourself, let's say you are not a native in English and you want to learn English. Everywhere on planet, you will find somebody in your village that is able to teach you English, or some English school, or some English book in your local library. Now, let's say you want to learn Ngala. Can you find a teacher nearby you able to teach Ngala? Can you find a book? I mean, try to think. You go to HR and you say, okay, I need somebody to work in the legal department that is English speaking. HR will say, okay, fine, I will find somebody. And then come after a few days with a mountain of curriculum like this and you can choose. Now you go to HR and you say, oh, I need somebody for the legal department and must speak Ngala. Maybe HR after 1 month comes with one curriculum and either you take this, either you don't take anybody. And you pay HR for 1 month to, search for this curriculum. And then you cannot even choose. So that's exactly the same when you go for F#, right? How many coders you find there? Of course, you might say, I hire somebody that doesn't speak F# and then I make a training. Okay, you want to make a training. Let's look at YouTube. Let's stay here. So, you search trainings in Python and you find so many people teaching. So let's say you like the way this guy in yellow background is speaking, then you can learn from him. You don't like, you go to the second, you go to the third. You have many. Maybe one is good, maybe one is not, but you find for sure somebody. Right. You want to go for C#? Fine. C++, look. You go for F#. In F#, there are only 3 series, the top 3, that they explicitly teach you F#. Already the 4th position is functional programming, and then they take F# as an example. It's not the main topic F#, the main topic is functional programming. And the same is on the 5th position, you have let's learn .NET framework, okay? And then we focus on F#. So you have only 3 trainings. If for any reason you don't find the answer to your question in these 3, so, also learning, also if you don't know how to do something, when you are using a coding language that is used by everybody, you find, for example, on Stack Overflow, an answer for any question. If you need a library, it's already there. You don't need to develop. So you are retrieving some data you want to export into a PDF and send to a printer or whatever, send automatically via email. If you use Python, there are so many people, there are 200 libraries, so everything is done. If you want to do in F#, you have to write, or your people working from you have to write this library interfacing your whatever with PDF, with printer. And if tomorrow you change the printer, you must pay somebody to update the library. If this is done in Python, most probably somebody around the planet will update and you just press the button, update, everything is done. So you have to take in account how difficult it is to find people able to use this code, how expensive it is for you to hire somebody, and how expensive will be in the future to maintain whatever you write. Let's say you have a script that is in Python retrieving some data from SQL, okay, and you need some maintenance on this. You hire somebody that they have SQL and Python on their curriculum. So on day one, you take this person and you say, okay, this is the script updated. On day one, this person will be able to work. Let's say you have something similar, but in F#. You hire somebody and then you have to train this person, pay for all the time this person takes to learn, and this person maybe will come to you that you are senior. So you have to spend the time to teach this guy or this girl, whatever, how to do this. So you pay also a senior to teach. And then you end up that the code doesn't have a library, you have to write a library. So after a few months, I met again these guys that were speaking, this manager that started the discussion, and I asked them, and they were like, between colleagues, kind of, not really colleagues, but still, they were like, oh yes, we did privately the script, okay, in Python, and it took 3 hours. With our manager, we are in 3 juniors plus 1 senior, and took 1 month, okay, to do exactly the same. They needed to take, some script that was taking some table, merge the data, and do some analysis, okay. Think, you as a manager, do you prefer to pay 1 junior for 3 hours, or you prefer to pay 3 juniors plus 1 senior for 1 month to get exactly the same task done? So, would you go for Python or would you go for F#?